I'm Town Manager Eric Peterson, and this is a summary of the Town Board meeting from Monday night, March 10th. The first item of business was 5 different appointments the Town Board made. They reappointed Phil Ray, who's been a longtime member of the Tree Board, to another 3-year term on the Tree Board, and then had a new appointment of Dana Danhauer, and she's going to be a great addition to the Tree Board. Melanie Knox also got added to the Parks and Recreation Board, and to the Historic District Commission they reappointed Anna Curry, and to the Board of Adjustments they reappointed Roderick Jones to another term on there. When the meeting started, there was actually a little bit of discussion about the recent storms, since I think we've had 2 events since the last meeting. And the big thing is debris, as in everybody's seen in town. A lot of trees down in the town. I've already had authorized public works staff to work overtime. If staff's available and the equipment's up and running, they can work on weekends too, to try to accelerate that process. But even with all of that work going forward, it's going to take a long time. Fortunately, Orange County Solid Waste has done a great job, and they have a pre-existing contract with a debris hauler, and that we are here in the next day or two will sign a contract so we can piggyback on top of Orange County's contract, and we'll be able to get some equipment in here even more quickly and at a reasonable price to help boost our current staff levels to help move that. But still, it's going to be weeks of going through the process. And as a result of the storm, we won't follow our regular every other week garbage collection. We will just pick it up as frequently as we can until we can kind of get ahead of the game, and then we'll get back on track. So just asking people's patience and to go to the website to see what links, to make sure you cut things down to a reasonable length so they're not so heavy that the knuckle boom trucks can't pick them up. And if you leave it with all sorts of branches sticking out, it takes up a lot more space in the dump trucks, and that means they have to make a lot more trips, and it slows the process down. So that's another reason we ask people to chop things down. Good piece of news on the storm for folks that were checking the media out over the last week. There were a number of wastewater plants across the state of North Carolina, which is typical in a heavy rain situation like this. They just get overwhelmed with all the inflow that sneaks its way into the sewer lines, and they get overflowed, and then raw or partially treated sewage goes into the river. We had suffered from that many years ago. Fortunately, while the wastewater plant's really expensive, it did its job, and we had our biggest peak days ever by far, and the plant ran smoothly. Everything went well, and so that was a good news, and we didn't have any reportable overflows at the pump stations, even though we had to rotate some generators to keep that. So all good news on the storm. We will do some after-action reviews after every event, because some things went well, some other things we didn't go so well, and we want to learn from those to try to get better next time. Jumping into the meeting now, the first item of business was the Eno Mountain Village townhome project, which at the last meeting the board approved phase 1, which was I think about 100 units there at the corner of Orange Grove Road and Eno Mountain. And there's the section across Eno Mountain Road that was going to house, I think, maybe up to 20 units that's right next to the mine. There were some concerns about being close to the mine and potential fly rock. I know from blasting, apparently that's a really low concern, but Mr. Lloyd, who owns the property, asked the town board if they could defer action on approval of the annexation, zoning, and special use permit, because he wants to have some more time to talk with the developer, to communicate with Piedmont Minerals to see what their options are going forward. So the board voted to go ahead and delay action on that until further notice. They also approved a special use permit for a new building in town. Dr. Eric Davis, who's been a dentist in town for a long time, who's currently out at Hampton Point, is building a brand new facility. As you're driving down Hampton Point Boulevard past Goodwill and towards Walmart, it'll be right between the Goodwill building and the new apartments there. So that's approved. They'll start construction on that, we understand, pretty soon. The water tank logo, the new water tank that's going to be constructed in the Waterstone development, UNC Healthcare had made a request to have their logo on the tank. So the board and the planning board looked at a couple different options, like having nothing on the tank, just having Hillsborough, or having Hillsborough and UNC Hospital. And there's been a lot of discussion in recent times over that. The planning board had several different options that they voted on and shared with the town board. During the board's discussion, appeared to be a common theme that commissioners had heard out in the public, was that about 20% of the people I talked to in town said that they thought the UNC Hospital logo should be on there, and but everybody was unanimous that that Hillsborough needs to be on that tank, the name, for branding, for identification and community identity, and just pride. Lots of people have told us from an economic development standpoint over the years that they think Hillsborough is way out in the hinterland and don't realize it's right here, and that is good branding for our businesses. So with that discussion, the board acknowledged how much UNC Healthcare is bringing to the community and how grateful they are, but the idea of that we need to have a separate identity, and we're not just a part of next door neighbor to everybody else. So ultimately the board decided just to have Hillsborough on the tank. We had some really exciting news. Our planning director, Margaret Houth, had teamed up with our planner, Stephanie Trueblood, and had worked with some other businesses to put together a proposal for a program put on by the American Architectural Foundation. And the program is the Sustainable Cities Design Academy. And what this does is throughout the country, oftentimes public-private partnerships will be formed where a government will work with private businesses to create a project or a development. And a lot of times getting started is the hardest part in creating a general conceptual design and vision, so you can then figure out what's possible, how to move forward. And it also helps with marketing for private landowners who want to sell and market it, so the market can go, gee, I didn't realize that this could happen. The specific project that was submitted, and their national submissions go through, and there's only 8 selected each year throughout the country. And Margaret and Stephanie took conceptually the Collins property in town, which is the 20 acres where the rail station and other things can go out there. And we're in partnership with the Daniel Boone development and the Freeland family who owns that. And also the Collins property, which is a large tract of undeveloped land that kind of goes there behind or above Daniel Boone. Altogether, I think it's over 200 acres, or approximately 200 acres of land. And it would be so everybody agreed this was an interesting opportunity to explore for the reasons we just discussed. And they made a submission, and we were accepted as one of 8 entities in the country. Several other train stations included Pittsburgh, West Palm Beach, Bridgeport, Connecticut are also on there. And so what this means is there'll be a small team of people, like representatives from the property owners, the town, and the railroad will go and talk about how could these properties be developed in sort of in concert to maximize the benefit for the property owners, the community, and the town. And that team will go up to Washington, D.C. in the fall, maybe around October, and design experts from around the country will be assigned to work with the team to create a vision as to what could happen out there. If anybody has any questions, they can feel free to call me or the appropriate department head, or go to our town websites for additional information. So, thank you.